Good morning, PRI. How's everyone doing today? Woo, look at that. High energy. High energy. Loving it, loving it. My name is Jeanette, DesJardins, Chix, premier motorsports organization for women. I believe this is our 7th annual Women in Motorsports panel at PRI. One of the most popular, highest attended, because all you guys keep showing up and because of the incredible things that women are doing in the industry, so thank you guys for that. What else can I say? So we started this in 2016. The very first panel was myself, Lynn St. James, Jennifer Lefevre, and the late and great Jesse Combs. Do it for Jesse. And I believe, yeah, right? Still to this day, I don't believe that she understood the ripple effects of everything that she accomplished in this industry. So she's greatly missed, and we're going to do it for Jesse today. So who was here last year? Who was here the year before? Year before that? Who was at the first one? Who remembers when this started at 8 o'clock in the morning? Hallelujah for 10 a.m. start times. It's more my speed. So with that all being said, it's my great pleasure to introduce the Women in Motorsports panel. And we're just going to kick it off. Feel free to introduce yourself. I'm going to start with Kathi.
I just want to make sure, okay, good, this is on. I purposely was going to make sure I wasn't the first one that was going to speak, but you guys all took off a little quicker than I expected. So my name is Kathi Lauterbach. I recognize a few of the people in this audience, so it's nice to see some friendly faces. I got my start I went to school in Dallas, and I currently am at Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. I'm about to start my 12th season there, but I got my start in Dallas, Texas, and I was with an agency that we did PR and communications for the Dallas Grand Prix, the San Antonio, the Tampa, Palm Beach. We did non-motorsports things for the Staubach company. It was a real estate company owned by a legend in the Texas area, Roger Staubach. That led to a job with Walker Racing, which was here in Indianapolis. Derek Walker ran Penske's organization for 13 years. I'm sure a few of you have heard of Roger Penske. And ran his organization for 13 years before he branched out and started his own. I joined that team and was there for a few years, worked as hard as I could, happened to win an award for the PR Person of the Year that was voted on by media. That led to an introduction to Newman Haas Racing. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with Newman Haas Racing. They don't exist anymore, but that was, they were second only to Penske in terms of success. And actually, Penske was 15 years older. So during the same amount of time, they actually were the most successful open-wheel racing team. And another notable thing about Newman Haas Racing, it was prior to my time, but they still to this day are the only team that was able to lure the reigning Formula One champion to come to IndyCar.
Nice.
Which is kind of amazing if you think about it. So anyway, that led to, so I was there for 16 years. It was amazing. I worked with Paul Newman, who was amazing among him, just in his own right. He had, from a communication standpoint, to be able to interact with the people that did his public relations, that also did PR for Elizabeth Taylor and many icons of that industry. That was a great opportunity for a PR person. So anyway, then I went to, once after Paul Newman passed away and Carl Haas shut the team down, I went to Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, and that was kind of an interesting thing because it's obviously, three icons in their industries with Bobby Rahal, David Letterman, and then Mike Lanigan. If you don't know Mike Lanigan, he's a south side of Chicago businessman. He owns the lease to the Panama Canal Railway and various other sporting things. He was the promoter of the Cleveland IndyCar race.
Tell me he's not a Sox fan, though. Sox or Cubs?
Oh, I'd have to say he is.
Oh, God.
But that balances out because Bobby Rahal is the fan of the other team. So.
Well, we can't all be perfect.
Yeah. So we have an IndyCar program that has 3 to 4 drivers, depending on whether it's the month of May or not, with Graham Rahal now for this year, Pietro Fittipaldi and Christian Lundgaard, and we have the factory BMW team in IMSA. So it's quite diverse.
Thank you. Sam?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Tan. I'm 26 years old from Toronto, Canada. I'm a professional sports car racer and team owner of Samantha Tan Racing. I'm also a BMW Motorsport ambassador. My journey into motorsports started when I was 16 years old. My first ever race car was a 91 Honda Civic that I raced in NASA. That same year, I competed in my first national series, the Canadian Touring Car Championship, where I won Rookie of the Year, and then moved to the States in 2015 to compete in Pirelli World Challenge. I raced touring cars for 3 years before stepping up into the GT4 class for 3 very successful years, and then finally made the move to GT3 racing last year. Some of my career highlights include 2 Pirelli GT4 America Championship titles, 6 International Endurance Racing Championships in 2021 alone, first woman to pole and win in FloRacing Challenge North America, and first in the world to win with the BMW M4 GT3. This year I competed in both GT World Challenge America and Europe with the M4 GT3 and FloRacing 296 GT3, where I finished 3rd in the Endurance Cup.
Nice. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. My name's Courtney Enders. I do not have a long bio like this. That was amazing. We're over here. We're a little ill-prepared for this. I've been in drag racing my entire life. I was born into it. My sister, we'll get the elephant out of the room, my sister Erica Enders is a 6-time world champion, but we ain't talking about her today. You can just go meet her at some other booth. But I've been in drag racing my whole life. Raced junior dragsters as a kid. We had a Disney movie, Right on Track, when we were children, and I think that it really kind of catapulted the junior dragster program. I see a lot of little junior fellow faces in here, but fast forward, I've been doing PR and marketing for my sister in Elite Motorsports for the last 12 years, 15 years, and about 2.5 years ago, I started working for FloRacing, making my own little path over here, doing on-air broadcast stuff, kind of building the drag racing department from the ground up as they just recently got into it, and gonna see what we can do from there.
Thank you. Welcome to the panel.
My name is Mattie Graves. I am from Hollywood, Maryland. Same thing. Not very prepared every year.
Same thing.
I'm very prepared.
The paper.
The shoes tell you how this is going to go today.
Right. Thanks. I'm just happy your shoes are on the right feet this morning. So.
Yeah,
right.
Started racing as soon as I probably came out of the womb with my dad. As soon as I got my driver's license, I hopped in a vehicle and started racing the quarter mile. So I like to go straight down the drag strip. I am the oddball out, and I run a diesel dragster. So I like to, be dirty, I guess you can say. So I just won my first world championship in the Outlaw Diesel Super Series, and I'm the only female in the pro classes over there.
Well, thank you, ladies. I appreciate you getting up this early and putting the right shoes on and being a part of this awesome panel. So we're just going to jump right into it. Towards the end, if you guys have any questions, we will open it up for Q&A. I don't know if we still have those COVID QR stickers on the back for the survey, but please remember to complete it if they're not there. They're not there. So we're just going to do a thumbs up thing. Okay. All right. Awesome. So they're not there anymore. But anyway, welcome to the show. So we're going to kick it off. We're going to start with Mattie, and we'll just move on down the line. You said that you started racing straight out of the womb. I think Courtney Enders could also relate to this. How do you brand yourself and create your own path, especially if you got into racing because your dad or your sister or however that thing works in the womb? How do you brand yourself?
I definitely have felt that just because in the diesel world, my dad definitely made a name for himself. So kind of getting out of his shadow and not being known as Mike Graves' daughter has been a struggle. But I managed to do it on my own because I stepped out and did something that he never thought to do. So it's definitely been a little bit of a brain cramp for him because I'm following in his footsteps with the diesel stuff, but I'm not doing the same thing he's doing. So it's definitely hard, especially being a woman in a very much so still male-dominant industry in the diesel. But the more you do it, the better you get at it, and people just look at you because you're different and unique, and they like that because it's not the same thing over and over again. So once you get into the habit of knowing what your path is and what you're good at and what you're known for, you just stick with it.
Same.
So, come on, Courtney, for real?
Yeah, I just said a minute ago that we weren't going to talk about her, but I'm going to talk about her. So, because we both came into this, my sister and I, doing this together as a family, I think a lot of people and even our family thought that we would kind of stick to that path together, and it's the same thing that Mattie said, is having the passion for this sport, but finding your own lane in it. That's been important for me, and it's taken all the 15 years since we've been out of that deal together and since I've really driven. And so I think mine's a little different since I'm not in the seat and I'm not trying to find funding or anything like that with my personal brand. And mine's just been trying to figure out, there's so many avenues within this sport that what you can do and so many different talents. You don't have to be a race car driver. You don't have to be a tuner. If you love this sport, there's an avenue for it. So my version of that was just figuring that out, and I think I have in the last couple of years.
I mean, like you guys said, it starts with passion, but on my end, I think I've created my own unique path in the industry because I never had any role models that I could relate to when I first started and know that looked like me. And so I never could go to somebody for advice on how to navigate like such a male-dominant industry and like candidly how to deal with my period on race weekends, for example. So over the course of my career, I've just learned to become the role model I never had and learn that I could, define myself on my own terms.
And the challenge with going last is everybody's said all the things.
World peace. No.
Right. I think it's important to know what you want your brand to be, and I think that it's a multi-pronged process, and it never ends. I think, branding yourself as a hard worker, somebody who is a role model, who aligns themselves with the right principles that match their brand. I think that's important, and it never ends. The networking and the making the most of every opportunity of every person that you meet. I think the motorsports world is so unique in the fact that you meet so many amazing, motivated people, and it's not as mainstream as maybe some other sports. So there's beauty in that you can meet so many people that have worked so hard to get where they are. And I think that's, building your brand off of those opportunities is an important step.
I agree. I think with branding yourself, you're constantly, you're always updating, kind of like updating a website. It's never finished. You're always updating, always continuing with your branding. So speaking of that, what is some of the best advice and some of the worst advice you have ever gotten? Come on, Kathi, I know you got some stories. Just spill the beans, girl.
I have some
Give
stories.
us
You'll
the
have to
tea.
read the book.
Give us the tea.
Well, I think that, I didn't really get advice specific to motorsports. Mostly my advice was specific to navigating the media world, and it's ever changing. I think we can all agree that the social media, the entrance of social media to the landscape, every day is a new challenge. It's something new that you learn as it continues to expand, and as the portions of your life continue to be more and more exposed to other people. So I think it's just been work hard and make the most of your opportunity, but work hard.
And worst advice?
I can't think of any worst advice.
Okay.
I thought of that when I understood that question earlier, and I was like,
It'll come to us later.
Yeah, maybe I'll come back to. For me, the best advice that someone gave me, I think, relates to both racing and to life, is that you can't control everything that happens to you. You can only control how you react to it, and I feel like I've stuck by that for my whole life. And I think the worst advice somebody has ever given me is keeping quiet will keep the peace, because whose peace is it really keeping? It's not mine.
I think some of the best advice I would say, like I said in my intro, is that we've lived it. There weren't many people our age doing what we were doing, and so I don't think there was a ton of advice trying to figure it out, but I will say that the worst advice that I can say that people have tried to steer is telling you where to be and what lane to be in and how to do it, and I'm a big fan of do what you want, so worst advice.
She's no help. Mattie?
Gosh dang it, it took 5 minutes.
I think for me, like no true one thing stands out to me for like best advice, but being the only female driver, especially like one of the youngest ones in the whole circuit, I will take a veteran's driver's advice any day, any minute. It doesn't matter if it's the smallest piece of advice, I'll take it because they've been doing it a whole lot longer than I am, and they've never steered me wrong. Worst advice as a driver is probably someone telling me to just drive, because it's so much more than just driving. So until they get in the seat, it's like, okay, don't tell me to just drive, because it doesn't work out like that.
So speaking of you just, get in the car and drive, just driving, so I think what some people, I think most people in this room understand, but what I think some people don't realize is outside of the car, there's so many other things that you have to do outside of just driving. So tell us about your typical day and work-life balance.
Well, so I do have a full-time job. Racing is not my full-time career yet. I hope so it is one day, maybe. But it's definitely hard, especially when you're trying to run multiple circuits at once. You feel like you're never at home. Luckily, my family races with me, so I feel like I don't ever miss out on family time and seeing everybody. They're always there with me. But it's definitely hard, and it takes a lot to get used to, and it's a lot to explain to somebody who's not in the industry to understand, well, why are you spending all this time doing what you're doing? Because they just don't have that same passion as the rest of us do. But once you get into a groove, it's kind of, you find your lane and you stick in it, and it's just so easy to just stay there.
No pun intended. The work-life balance, for sure. I'm 37 years old, and
Jesus, I'm just kidding.
Come on.
No, I'm just kidding. Me too.
You validated my point, because I have no work-life balance. I wanted to do this, something within it for my whole life, and you make sacrifices, and we talk about it all the time. I have no friends at home. My family, I'm out here doing this with my family, with my sister, Richard Freeman, everybody. They've become our family, but you don't have anything at home, and that's a sacrifice that you have to make, and my sister and I go back and forth and talk about it of, are we missing out on something? Should we maybe have taken a different fork? And I beat into her head all the time that heavy's the head that wears the crown, and not a lot of people get to do this. And so I think that one of the struggles, not that you asked, but one of the struggles is choosing that and being able to take that passion and do all those things that you spoke about every single day and make those sacrifices to be able to be one of the lucky ones that get to do what we do.
Yeah, exactly what you said. I think to be successful in this sport, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. And for me, my life is basically living out of a suitcase. I'm never home. I barely get to see my family and my friends. For example, in September, it was 6 back-to-back weekends between US and Europe, and I never got to go home between that time. But I think it's all about perspective, like you said. Some people would kill for the opportunities we get, and I'm very happy and very lucky to be able to do what I do.
I would agree the work-life balance is difficult because, you can do the work-life balance in September, October, and November for us, basically, because our season, is pretty much year-round. We're already ramping up for the 24 hours of Daytona right now. But you do make choices. I've missed friends' weddings, birthdays, any kind of celebration. You do make a sacrifice, certainly, but ultimately I can't imagine doing anything else. I can't imagine the people who have the day job that they just go into the office and they're just in the office all day. And I have one of the greatest jobs in the world, and I usually joke, I would almost do this for free, just don't tell my boss. So
we won't tell him.
There is a work-life balance for sure, and I think part of it is, getting to go to places like Surfers Paradise, Australia. You add in a day on the front end or the back end, or England, or wherever you happen to be. You need to take time for yourself to be able to, it's certainly your friends aren't there necessarily unless, occasionally they get to come to the cool places, but there is definitely a work-life balance.
No, and I can totally relate to that. Like, unless you're getting married on Tuesday, don't even invite me. And and I will go to the first one, I'm not coming to the second, all right? I mean, how many times do you want to do this? Like, welcome back. I mean, are you serious? And it's expensive, guys, like one and done. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and I think the panel is going to relate to it in different ways. When we talk about, like, what's your advice on how someone should pitch to a sponsor or try to acquire sponsorship, or what is something that you have personally done to stand out from the rest? So, I mean, we're at PRI, right? I mean, these guys have like stacks of papers like this. They're not taking them home, guys, okay? I mean, it's all going to go in the trash. But how do you stand out from all those papers?
These guys will have probably a better perspective because that's, they're selling themselves, and that's obviously, it's make it or break it, right? I would say, what was your first part of the question?
So, okay.
I was already on the next question.
Right, I'm all like, too much coffee.
How do you sell yourself?
What advice would you give to stand out from the rest in terms of trying to obtain sponsorship?
I know from our team, it was prior to my joining the team, but Danica Patrick, she basically figured out what she wanted her brand to be, and she approached it that way. And I'll never forget, she's not racing these days, but she always talked about the hustle, the side hustle. And it's interesting because Bobby Rahal had said that to her. He said, my biggest thing is when I was a race car driver, what am I going to do once I'm not driving anymore? How am I going to have enough money to, support my family and all the things? So he's like, be thinking about what your next gig is, your side hustle. So as a race car driver, what I would say to any, up and coming race car driver is always thinking about saving and all the things like that. But taking a step back, it's knowing, how you want to brand yourself, and I think that women have so many opportunities ahead of them. The sky is the limit in terms of how you want to brand yourself, because if we look at our social media analytics, the bulk of it is male, but there's a good portion of female, and it's growing and growing. That just means that the market isn't overcrowded with ways to with potential sponsorship and ways to get exposure for those people.
First and foremost, for me, I think you have to understand your inherent value and like what you bring to the table. For us women specifically, we're a very small percentage of the motorsport world still, and I think you should definitely use that to your advantage. I think a lot of sponsors are definitely looking for more diversity because we offer, different perspectives. And what has been integral in my career, specifically in my sponsorships, has been my social media platform. So social media is literally a free marketing tool. Build a unique brand for yourself. And in general, I think brands are always looking for consistency and like what your voice is on socials. They actually do prefer a higher female audience percentage, creativity on your content, and just, I guess, what your relationship is with the brand.
I think my avenue on this question is a little bit different because I've assisted people in doing this and not really gone and got it for myself, so I think it's a little bit easier to take someone else's advice than your own. But what we've been able to do at Elite and for our drivers is surround ourselves with good people. I'm staring at Pete Merkel back here who is able to help us determine how we go about doing this and how you're pitching yourself. But on a personal level, I think it's always been really important to us to figure out who you want to be. There's a different avenue that women can go out here. I think there's a couple of different brands of women that you can be out here and deciding which kind of driver you want to be or which kind of whatever you want to be, because you can lean into it and you can get opportunities because of it, or you can lean into the fact that you just want to be a driver. And I think that depends on your personality. I think that depends on your social, who you're trying to be to these sponsors and for these sponsors. But to be the devil's advocate to what you said, I think just be a driver.
And I agree, and I think, at least for me, for being the only female in the diesel, I kind of use that to my advantage because who else is out there doing it? So they definitely notice that a lot more. But kind of like what you have the opportunity to make your brand, and you stick with that. And once you figure out who you are and who you want to be, it leads you to the right sponsors that are going to stick with you and follow your brand and who you want to be in the future. So once you figure out who you are, it leads you to all the right people as well.
So a number of you guys mentioned social media and having a positive voice and all that cheery good stuff. So tell us about, like, what would you recommend not sharing on social media, or what are some examples of things that you've seen either other people in the industry or specifically women or not women post online that you would say you probably shouldn't do that?
I don't think I've ever seen anybody post something where I'm like,
come on, man.
questionable.
Really?
I have.
Look who you're sitting next to. To your left.
I mean, I'm sure I have. It just, has lost my mind. But I definitely think that social media can be your best friend, but it can also be your worst enemy. You could post something that you're really passionate about, and you think, wow, this is going to do so well on social media, and social media is going to hate it. And you're going to be so put down, you're going to be so upset, and then, because I go through that all the time, where it's like, I don't even know why I do social media anymore, but it's a beautiful thing, the amount of people that I've met this weekend alone that have been, oh, we're friends on Facebook, I follow you on Instagram, I see your TikToks. It's a beautiful thing, but you're always going to have that small portion that is like, why are you doing that?
I follow you, and I like it. I think just being yourself on there. I mean, if you're trying to be in the public eye, you have to understand that, my dad said this as we were kids, don't write or say anything that you don't want posted on the front page of the Houston Chronicle. That shows where I'm from and how old I am, because it was the newspaper. But I think that really taking that into effect is when you type and you post this stuff, it's kind of like a little mini press release. And so just sticking true to who you want to be and what you want to put out there, because the internet is forever, and we've all screenshot stuff and sent it, and that is forever. But I think for what you asked about what not to do, I think we kind of get lost in this professional and personal side of this stuff, and airing laundry. We all want to be who we are and be able to freely say what we want, but I think that there's a division of power there, and maybe get you an alias account for your personal stuff.
I mean, I don't think I have anything else to add to what you said. I think you put it perfectly. The internet is forever. I think you just have to think about exactly what you want to put out there and stay authentic to yourself, but don't be completely unfiltered.
Like me.
Just, you beat me to it, man.
Thanks.
I would agree with all of those. I know, in times of good, the social media can be amazing. It can help boost you up and everything. And then not every year, unfortunately, can be a great year from a career standpoint or on track. So the team I'm with, we had a tough first part of the season, and boy, the haters come out, and so you want to read the comments to see if there's anything constructive that you can learn from that, but you also want to have the restraint not to reply to any of those things, because just remain true to your brand and don't let anyone get you going.
That is such a hallmark answer about learning going through the comments and seeing if we can learn anything. You know what I learned about Bob over there? Block. I'm done. That's it. That was actually going to be my next question, how you deal with negativity on social media, but I think that's pretty solid response. Sam, what about you and your team?
Yeah, I get a lot of hate on social media for sure, but you kind of just have to remember a lot of the times it's people just projecting their insecurities or jealousy. There's always, there's days where I do ignore it, and I have to ignore it because I could not be bothered to waste my energy on things like that. But then there are definitely other days where I feel very inclined to reply because, there's never any consequences for internet trolls. And, if I truly consider myself to be someone who is striving to make this world a better place for women, then the first woman I should be speaking up for is myself.
Dang.
That was good.
I think we all do, but deal with a lot of haters online. Like you said, there's no consequence when you're sitting on the couch in a basement, as my sister says. And I think that you've got to figure out, you want to stand up for yourself, but there is that line of, just knowing who said it and where it came from and why they said it, and just being above it. But every once in a while, it's nice to tell them to sit down.
I definitely agree with everything y'all have said, but it's just knowing who it's coming from. And, sometimes you're just having a bad day and you want to, but I have to remember that I am on social media. Other people will see this. So, sometimes I do just comment back, but I make sure it's politically correct. So I'm still being nice, but
Kill him with kindness.
I like that. All right, so knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self? Don't all jump at the question.
Oh, me first?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it makes sense, but I'm still pretty young, so I don't really know. But I guess kind of just don't let anybody tell you no. I had plenty of people tell me that, but the right people told me yes and told me to keep going and that the world's not going to end when I have a bad race weekend. So just knowing that the people that believed in me back then still do now, it's the greatest thing ever, but definitely don't always listen to everybody that tells you no.
Okay, well, I am old, so I will say that I do know. I think that it's just important to, I said this yesterday, the last few days I've been doing content shooting for FloRacing for the Pro Superstar Shootout coming out in Bradenton. And it was kind of surreal because I grew up being a fan of this sport. I'm still a fan of this sport. And I got to go to Antron Brown's shop and Ron Cap's shop, and I was walking around doing a tour with John Force at his shop, and I all but could not keep it together because this man is just a legend, and I was forgetting what I was supposed to say, and I did have a pinch me moment of 10-year-old Courtney would just have died to know that this is what was going to happen. And so I think if you really dream it, just do it and don't stop. I would just tell myself not to stop because I almost did a couple of times, but don't.
Knowing what I know now, I started racing pretty late when I was 16, and I think for a very long time I was extremely hard on myself because I didn't realize that, a lot of the people I was racing against had years of experience ahead of me. And so I think my advice to myself would be to manage my expectations better and be realistic. Don't be so hard on yourself, and don't forget to have fun because that's the most important part.
And that's what I would say too, just enjoy the ride along the way. Like when you are in cool places like Australia or Japan, take a moment and appreciate your surroundings and appreciate what got you there. And also don't be so, so focused on the end game. Enjoy it as you're doing it, and meet as many people as you can because there are literally so many interesting people in the world that I think that the more people you know, the more you know.
I like that. Enjoy the ride, right? Kathi, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges facing women in motorsports today?
Maybe it's just because I'm an optimist. I was thinking that, there's challenges for everybody, certainly. I think right now there's a good opportunity because I know in the industries that I'm involved in, there's starting to be a little bit of a shortage of qualified help. So I think it's a perfect opportunity to get experience and go for it. Apply for a job in motorsport as a female specifically, but for males as well. I think this is a good opportunity to do that. I don't know.
Or just in the industry as a whole, I think it's solid.
As a whole, I think it's a great opportunity to fill some roles.
There's definitely a shortage in the industry of just bodies and actually, skilled workers, but bodies alone. Sam?
So I wrote a lot for this because I have a lot of choice words to say, but I think...
All the four-letter ones.
no, definitely not. But I think the biggest challenge is definitely sponsorship. But I also have to mention that this is something that every racer faces. Securing a place in motorsport for anyone is more of a Herculean task than it may initially seem because the financial requirements are very steep and the demand for skill, precision, and experience can often be very, very overwhelming. So it's no secret that motorsport is one of the most expensive sports to compete in. So our greatest challenge has always been funding, because it grants, access to track time, better equipment, resources, and just more opportunities. But I think for women specifically, our biggest challenge has been earning respect in the paddock. Motorsport has historically been male-dominated, leading to, stereotypes that women may not possess the same level of skill, competitiveness, or toughness as our male peers, which also consequently affects the way that we gain sponsorships. A lot of people believe that women get into motorsport for the attention, which is obviously very incorrect, but breaking these stereotypes and proving your capabilities is an ongoing challenge. And furthermore, the lack of female representation in top-tier motorsport series can make it very difficult for us to gain recognition and respect, because when there are fewer visible role models and success stories, it can be very discouraging for aspiring female racers. But that being said, the car doesn't care who is in the driver's seat. All that matters is winning, and that's what makes a name for you in this sport. I know that talent, hard work, and determination can ultimately earn you respect in the paddock, and I think my story is a testament to that.
Again, good Lord. That was great. I think I've always been raised to be really positive and not try and figure out your hardships and things that were going to hold you back. So I think that just to speak a little differently, maybe my answer here would be kind of ourselves, because you're always looking for a reason of why would they not choose me? What are my downfalls as a woman, or what are they going to say if I throw my helmet when this guy gets kudos for throwing his helmet? There's a million ways you can talk yourself out of wanting to do something because you're a woman. But I think maybe you just get out of your own way.
I definitely agree with that. I think we can be our own biggest critics, and sometimes it really can bite you in the butt.
And each other's.
Yes. But like what you said, I think respect, just not only from men, but just from everybody. This sport is harsh. It doesn't matter if it's coming from a man or a woman, and it blows my mind that the women in the sport sometimes don't always support you, and it's really sad. But I think, for me at least, which you are on a different level, so you see different forms of it, but I think now, compared to when I started 3 years ago, I definitely have the respect of the guys that I race with, because I went out there and I proved myself. Because like you said, the car doesn't care who's driving it, as long as somebody's in the seat. So I think women who are coming into the sport now are facing it a little bit more, but I hope that changes, because it's really sad to see.
I totally agree with what you just said. Mattie, what are some tools and resources that you could recommend to the audience that could enhance their careers or education or build awareness for the industry? Anything that you've used or?
Obviously, social media. Just, for one, using it to build yourself as a brand, to get people to know you, but it also helps you make connections. I've met so many great people just through social media alone. Like, I would have never guessed that I know the people that I know now just because I saw your face on Instagram. And it can lead to such good connections and relationships and friendships, but every little thing that you're given, any opportunity, whether it's a driving opportunity, an opportunity to go to a class for free, or a free opportunity like this seminar, just take it and take in all the knowledge that you're given.
I think people, honestly, with our program, like I keep saying, we're very blessed with the opportunities that we have, but I think that's a lot because of the people that we've surrounded ourselves with, and choosing the right army to do all of this stuff with can be the biggest tool, because I joke around and say I'm a, what is it, the jack of all trades, master of none? That's me. I don't really know what I'm good at, but I know all the right people that are good at things and know how to get stuff done. And so I think that's a very, very valuable tool. And then on the same aspect of the people helping you do those things, the social media obviously, but the people that you have in your corner that help protect you and help when you're going to battle mentally and physically and emotionally of what we're giving our lives to this. But yeah, people for me.
For me, I think it's definitely social media again. Like you said, I think it's a great way to build yourself a community, but also gain like really valuable connections. I mean, a lot of the times nowadays when people are like, oh, do you know who this person is? The first thing they do is they pull up your Instagram. So I think for me, yes, social media, again, a free marketing tool, definitely use it to your advantage.
I would agree on the social media part that they've already touched on. Another thing is, if you compare motorsports to other professional sports, this is much more open door policy. The people that you know lead different organizations, you can actually have conversations with them. So you could network, you could branch out. I think also, along the lines of the social media and the importance of that, I think media training is also a good thing to do every few years, because then it gets you more comfortable in front of a camera. It gives you better ways to maybe make your points that you want to make, but overall, like these guys said, ladies said, it's just people. It's a people. Everything comes down to people.
So earlier we were discussing how there's like a shortage of workers in the industry. What are some things that you think that we could do, like everyone in this audience, that we could do to help grow the sport? Or bring more people into the industry? I tell people all the time, like, hey, next time you go to a race, grab your friend,
That's the million-dollar question for all the series. Certainly, everybody's every day looking for ways to bring more and more people into the sport. I think the access for the social media, just getting your story out there and saying all the interesting, stories. But it's the million-dollar question, right?
That's it.
I'm not really sure how to answer. Put people on Drive to Survive. I feel like that got a lot of people into the sport.
I think in drag racing especially, I forget that this is a whole motorsports deal, so in drag racing especially, we're kind of the redneck younger brother of all of the real TV sports and all of that. So I think that getting people to get to the racetrack, drag racing's a sport of sensory, and you can watch things on TV and look at stuff on social media, but for my little niche and avenue of this deal, you got to get them there, make them smell it, feel it.
And I
You're
agree.
my favorite redneck, by the way.
What's that?
You're my favorite redneck.
I totally agree. No one understands how it feels to go to a drag race until they just do it. But I think for us, because like in the circuit that I'm running, we're kind of facing the issue of, well, not anymore, but just car count. And it's as easy as like, okay, you have a pickup truck, you can put it in the ET class and come out here and race with us Friday and Saturday and have a blast. And it's just this simple thing of saying, hey, you want to go to the racetrack with me? And they're hooked right then and there.
That's how I got involved. I was just hooked from the get-go.
I would add one more thing.
Sure.
I know, as we all know, motorsports wouldn't happen if there weren't sponsors. And there wouldn't be sponsors if there weren't fans. So I always appreciate when the fans reply to drivers' social media posts. So I shop at Hy-Vee because they're a sponsor of motorsports. Whether it's IndyCar, IMSA, drag racing, what have you, the fact that, I think that the fan is always very, very powerful in motorsports and potentially, and it all helps increase the exposure that any of the motorsports entities get.
That's a really good point. And Hy-Vee has nice salads. I like going there when we're at Eddyville. Yeah.
Things you never thought you'd hear your race car drivers say, wow, did you see the cheese section?
Right.
Man,
My driver says that all the
Banging
time.
lettuce.
She laughed. That would have been funny.
What is one thing that you wish you would have studied more or had taken a greater interest in that would have helped your career today?
I'll start just because I did think of this. These days, I wish I had studied how to edit videos. Can I get an amen?
Yes.
I mean, oh my gosh, who knew, when I went to school that you'd have to, on the fly while you're on a golf cart, hopefully somebody else is driving the golf cart, edit a video to post, or something like that. So I think that, and then just knowing, I think there ought to be in every 5 years you get to relearn what you need to know because the industry has changed so much. the communications industry per se. And just knowing all the applications that are out there, whether it's creating content or creating the reports about the content.
I think I wish that I took a bigger interest in, I guess, like mechanical engineering and like how to wrench on a car. I think a big misconception is a lot of sports car racers know how to work on their own car. They don't. So I wish I kind of like knew more about that and how to like, I guess, work on the suspension or the brakes or something like that, because I know how the car feels and I can obviously drive well with that, but yeah, I wish I took a bigger interest in that.
All you young children, close your ears. I feel like I made a good call, and this is, again, take this with a grain of salt because of my life, but I actually quit school. I quit college. I went to Texas A&M, and I got an opportunity to do what I wanted to do, what I thought I wanted to do, and I quit. And I've quit 2 things in my life, and that was one of them. And I had some massive regrets at the beginning. I wish I would have continued to study on the business side and learn more of that. But as I've gotten older, and as, like you both said, everything about what we know has changed. Everything about PR. When I went to school for PR stuff, they don't even do that crap anymore. It's just to the woods. It's a completely different game, and we've had to relearn it anyway. And you got to relearn all the algorithms. You got to figure out how to edit. I do videos for my job, and I don't know how to edit. Like, it's insane. So I think that I'm going to be a devil's advocate again. I'm excited for the journey that I took because I feel like I've learned on the streets, if you will, instead of going that other route. But that may not work for somebody else who's a little more polished. But yeah, I don't know if I have a true answer to that because I learned in the streets.
But yeah, definitely with social media, which luckily I've had the opportunity to pay somebody to do my videos for me, so that has helped a ton. But I think for me personally, I wish I took an interest in racing earlier. I never got the opportunity to go junior dragster racing, but I think looking back on it now, I probably would have helped with just experience, seat time, connections that you can make at 7 years old that carry on throughout your whole drag racing career. But there's so many things that you can go back and change, but at the end of the day, this is your journey that you're on, so make the best of it.
It's funny about the social media thing, because when I was in college, my final project, like we're about to graduate, walk across the stage and be like millionaires. For some reason, that's what I thought would happen if I went to college, but that's not what happens. But I did my final project on how I was going to use social media to sell shoes. And my teacher was like, well, you know, that's all fine and dandy, but, you know, social media is just a fad. Yeah. And then she also told me I was, like, very unlikely to get a job straight out of college, but I used her as a referral, and I was, like, one of, like, 3 students. I had, like, 2 job offers. I forget her name. I should send her a card or something, right? Anyway, enough about me. With that being said, this is going to be the last question that we're going to open up for Q&A. So we're going to end it with, what advice would you give someone interested in pursuing a career in motorsports?
I'll start.
All right.
So at a race at Gateway, St. Louis, in September, there was a nice young lady. She goes to Butler University. She did her research. She identified who she wanted to meet. She came to the race because it is open in the paddock. Once you're there, she met all kinds of various people, and this is probably a year out from her needing to apply for an internship. It's better, the more work you put into it, the better the outcome may be. You may get lucky. I've gotten lucky many times in my career. I was at the right place at the right time, but it's better to be in control of your destiny. So she resurfaced, a few weeks ago and contacted me and said, hey, I'm doing this term paper and I need to interview someone. So it's just maintaining that contact over the years and just knowing that it might not happen right away, but there's plenty of opportunities. These people all go to make appearances. There's plenty of opportunities if you're in those markets to reach out to these people, but also send reply to their social comments or something. Just build a rapport, and it'll pay off in spades whether you get that particular job or another job. And then motorsports is kind of not, sometimes unless you hit the timing right, there might not be opportunities open. But if you instead went to get some similar experience at another organization, maybe it's the Pacers, maybe it's Special Olympics, there's opportunities in on the other side of the wheel, so to speak, that you can lay some groundwork for?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think for me the best way is to put yourself out there, seize every opportunity that you can. I mean, go to race events. I mean, like you said, most of them they're open. You can go into the paddock, you can go to the pit lane, and bring your card, bring your business card, give it out to teams, and like start emailing people. I mean, it's all about putting your name out there and building a unique brand for yourself. So.
Great answers, all of those. I won't reiterate it because I agree with it, but I think that on the other side of the spectrum too is you've got to be ready for it, because like we've said before, this crap is rough. The people are rough, the hours are rough, the life is rough. We talked about the sacrifices, and so I think you really have to figure out what you want, because this isn't a half, I don't know the rating of this conference, half-butt job. You have to give your whole life and your whole soul to it, and I think that was something that I wasn't necessarily ready for whenever it hit me in the face, and then I enjoyed that part about it, so buckle up would be my advice.
I think my advice I will take from what somebody told me, and it was a simple conversation that I had with Don Schumacher at the racetrack one day, and he said, "What are your goals?" And I said, "I want to go Top Fuel racing." And the one thing he told me, he said, "Okay, find a job with the Top Fuel team." He said, "You don't have to be a driver." He said, "You can sweep the floors at the shop, but get started." He said, "Walk in there, tell them your intentions, and they'll keep you in the back of their mind so that when they're ready for another driver, they're going to think of you." So just if you're passionate about this and you want to get started, find somewhere to get started, and it doesn't matter what it is, just do it.
It's pretty solid.